Sorry, Brian Kelly was speaking with the media yesterday as well. And Kelly had some updates on everything from this week with guys like Logan Diggs to Whit Weeks, who he was asked about specifically yesterday. He also gave some information on Weeks that not a lot of people were aware of, with Weeks being injured and having a slice on his foot that had been stitched up. Here's Kelly. This is 8, Stewie, of him talking about his freshman linebacker, Whit Weeks, who has been out of action for the last 3 games.
Whit Weeks been in terms of
he's been injured. Yeah, he's been injured. He had an accident that left a nasty gash in his foot, and he wasn't able to play at the highest level. We could probably got him in the Georgia State game. That was my decision not to play him. I did not want to, put him in a game where, he pops 2 or 3 of those stitches, and then we didn't have him for A&M. We're going to need him this weekend.
Could he have another year?
Sure.
Gash on his foot.
The old gash on the foot, huh?
Foot gash.
I remember Brian Kelly at the beginning of the year coming to the podium and saying, look, this year's going to be different. I'm going to tell you about injuries. I'm going to be forthright. I'm going to be honest. In fact, there's going to be situations and scenarios where you guys don't even have to ask me about an injury. I'm just going to give you an update. So Whit Weeks has not been playing for the last 3 weeks because he's had a gash on his foot? Call me crazy. I ain't buying it. I don't believe it. He might have had a gash on his foot last weekend, kept him out of action. I believe that. But for the last month, him not being there, all right. Look, man, it's. We talked about it yesterday.
Strange.
It is what it is. For whatever reason, this defensive staff has not played the best players. That's a reputation that they have in recruiting. That's a reputation that they have in their own locker room. That's a reputation that they have with former coaches. That's a reputation that they have with high school coaches. That's a reputation that they have going around. That's not just this show screaming and saying that stuff. That's stuff that they're saying that is obvious. And Whit Weeks is a great example of that. Javian Taviano is a great example of that. Braden Swinson is a great example of that. Deshaun Walmack is a great example of that. Early in the year when Denver Harris was accessible to the team, he's a great example of that. There's lists and examples that are miles long. Whatever the explanation is on Whit Weeks is fine. The fact of the matter is it sounds like he's going to play this weekend, which finally, good. Get him out there. That gives you the best chance to win, right? And, whatever the scenario, whatever the reason why he hasn't played in weeks leading up to last week is, we can speculate. We can call it for what it is, but not one time have you heard Whit Weeks on an injury report. Not one time has anybody been told about any type of foot injury or anything going on with Whit Weeks, and people have been asked of where he's been. And I know after talking to numerous people that there is pushback inside of the defensive room of why these guys aren't playing. Why is the best guys not playing? And, people can call it for what it is on this show starting or just saying it here. That's the stuff that's happening with the team. That's the stuff that's happening with recruits. That's the stuff that's happening with potential recruits, coaches, or people's handlers that are looking at LSU defensively and wondering if they go there, are they not going to play? Are they going to play Ovi Agofu over Braden Swinson like they do now when Swinson's the better player? Are they going to play Omar Spates over Whit Weeks when Whit Weeks is the better player? Are they going to play and continue to play and not give reps early in the season to a guy like Javian Taviano and have him better prepared for later in the year when he should have been playing? I mean, those are questions that are being asked in living rooms, in recruits' houses, in on-campus visits. It's being asked by players that are on the team right now to the coaching staff. All that stuff is being talked about internally. We're not just making that stuff up. You know what I mean? Like, we're not just trying to create something.
And you watch it every Saturday. You don't think the players say something about that? You don't think you think they just sit in the locker room and say, you think Braden Swinson is watching Ovie Ogofu every weekend saying, I'm not better than him? Like, that's normal competitive spirit. Like, I wouldn't think these kids would be at LSU if they didn't have that competitiveness to them, that edge to them to say, Coach, I'm better than him. If you want to see, put me out there.
We'll see. You know, I expect major overhaul and changes to be made for part of that reason. And I expect those changes to be made as early as the regular season ending. I mean, it could happen Sunday. It could happen next week. It could happen very, very soon because of the attention that the defensive side of the ball needs to see for LSU to be competitive, right? Brian Kelly has called out year 3 for himself since he stepped onto the job. On Sunday, he's staring year 3 in the face, right? You're looking at year 3 come Sunday when your regular season of year 2 is behind you. And all you have is the postseason, which is going to be a game, recruiting, and next thing you know, you're into year 3. And he understands that what's happening on the defensive side of the ball is it's not championship level. It's not championship level inside the living room. It's not championship level on the practice field. It's not championship level on Saturdays. And to get there, he's got to make major changes. And I expect that to happen. I mean, really, to get to that point. I mean, we can sit here and debate Whit Weeks all we want, whether or not hurt, why wasn't playing. Fact of the matter is there's a reputation growing on the LSU defensive staff that they don't play the best players and they don't have them prepared to play, and that's an issue.
It's too many Whit Weeks examples. You got Braden Swinson, you got Deshaun Womack, Javion Toviano, like it's Terrence Welch. Like, it's too many examples out there to say, like, it's just one person.
Here's more from Brian Kelly yesterday. Let's just go down the list here, Stewie. This is one. This is him previewing the day, previewing the week, and looking ahead to Texas A&M.
I would take a look back at this weekend, seeing Wilson wasn't here on another historic evening in Tiger Stadium. 8 touchdowns. I'll say this. First of all, from a team perspective, I was really happy with how our team played up to their standard. Those are difficult games. We saw across college football how some teams, really struggled to play up to their standard. When you step out of the SEC, I think, our football team did a really good job against a team that, is difficult to play against. Georgia State has got a good football team. They're well coached. They're bowl eligible. They're going to win games. So pleased with, the overall performance. And, again, an incredible evening for Jaden Daniels and the wide receivers. Obviously we know about what he did, tying Joe Burrow's record for 8 touchdowns. He was named the SEC Player of the Week again. I think that's for the 5th time this year that he's won that weekly award. Again, number 1 in the nation in a number of categories. He continues to play at an incredibly elite level and the best player in college football. So great weekend leading into, our last home game. And it's we want to be able to honor our seniors in this game and certainly playing an outstanding football team in Texas A&M. A team that is ultimately talented on both sides of the ball, skilled players, outstanding defense, ranked as one of the best defenses in the SEC. I think it's leading in total defense, number 1 in rush defense, outstanding defensive line. I think one of the best, if not the best, linebacker in Cooper. This will be a great challenge for our offense and then certainly for our defense with their skilled players. and our ability to certainly play. A complete 4 quarters of football. So should be an exciting matchup. They always are. It's a game that, certainly our last home game in Tiger Stadium. We're looking forward to the challenge, and it should be a great football game. So that will open it up to questions.
One of the things that really, we have to focus on this week, and we will. We'll dive into it with Pate coming up here in the second hour, and we'll talk to Billy Lucci at some point this week and talk more from an SEC perspective. But just the challenge that this LSU offense has going up against this A&M defense. This will be the best defense that LSU's faced all season long when you look at it on paper, especially when you talk about the depth of the defensive line and really the back end. This defensive backfield is a talented group that's going to be a really nice matchup for the best offense, the best wide receiver class, the best wide receiver core in the country. And then they've got the best linebacker in Edgerrin Cooper, who's out of Covington High School, who's been playing the middle for them and has been playing at an extremely high level all season long. This is going to be a defense that LSU is going to have to close out on a very high level against. And then, look, you're also talking about award season, and LSU's right in the middle of it. LSU is up for a ton of awards, especially on offense. They're finalists for the Joe Moore Award. They've got 2 wide receivers in the Biletnikoff Award. They've got a quarterback that's in every relevant race that's out there for a big-time trophy in college football, whether it's the Davey O'Brien to the Manning Award to the Heisman Trophy, everything, Walter Camp, everything that means something and that is a huge award in college football offensively, Daniels is up for, or some form of this offense is up for. Best offensive line, best wide receivers, 2 of them in the class of the Biletnikoff finalists that were named yesterday. So, LSU is definitely, look, they're politicking right now. They are going up against an extremely tough and big challenge against A&M on Saturday, and they need to have one of these typical Saturday performances that they've been putting out over the last 7-8 weeks, where you're putting up 400, 500, 600 yards of total offense. Everybody's eating, everybody's touching, everybody's scoring, everybody's getting theirs. Because one advantage that, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, guys like that are going to have is that they play an extra week of football. And not only do they play an extra week, you don't. So everybody's going to be looking at them, and it's, we live in this world of what did I see last? What's the last thing I saw? And, the last thing that you need to see from Jaden Daniels in this LSU offense is them chopping up a really good, deep, playmaking type of defense in Texas A&M. So, this is on paper and really in the buildup, this is the most talented group that LSU has faced defensively. Not to say that I expect them to stagger this offense, because everything, one thing that Brian Kelly has pointed out over the last couple of days is that they've seen everything now defensively. There is nothing that they can see or be thrown at them that, is going to be like, wow, what's this? People have dropped 8. They've played trap coverage. They've played man. They've played zone. They've played, you spied him. You've done everything. He's the SEC Player of the Week for 8 weeks out of the, you're going into the last week. He's won 8 times. He's better than you. He's just better than everybody. Talking about Daniels. So, one thing that we, this week has to, every week it seemed like, you just kind of check off the offense is going to get theirs. They're going to eat. And why wouldn't you, right? They've done it consistently every week. But this one, it's going to be a challenge for, the offensive line. In fact, here's Kelly yesterday talking about the challenge that this defensive line is going to prevent to LSU up front.
For your offensive line.
Yeah, it's just that. First of all, there's depth on the defensive line. Physically gifted athletes at all levels, inside and out, and they have versatility. Their defensive linemen can play anything from a 0 technique to a 5 technique. Great versatility, great athleticism. As I mentioned, Cooper's all over the field. You got to know where he is. And that's the strength of their Texas A&M defense, is the versatility, the depth that they play on the defensive line. They and they're aggressive. Coach is an aggressive defensive play caller. They mix things up very well, and especially their third down packages. You've got to be on your toes. You certainly have to do a really good job in protections and protecting the quarterback, and you've got to be able to find a way to mitigate some of the potential.
More from Kelly speaking about this A&M defense. I believe this was Jacques asking him, and he asked him directly, is this the best defense you faced all year?
This year?
Yeah, I mean, I think, in terms of their versatility, in terms of what they do, yes, this is the best defense.
Kelly also speaking about senior day and some of the guys that he's going to have the opportunity to possibly recruit back to the program. Kyron Lacey's name came up yesterday, and I think Lacey's sitting in a spot really that makes a ton of sense for him to return. Obviously, over the last couple of weeks, he's become more of a threat of a pass catcher. I think physically and from a blocking standpoint, he checks every single box that an NFL draft pick would need. He needs to consistently catch the ball and, refine his route running that, Cortez Hankton has really proven that if you can stay in his system for as however long you need, you can be developed and be a pro. But Kelly, here he is speaking about some of the seniors that are going to be honored this week, and really what seniors, what senior day is now. This is two, Stewie, of Kelly yesterday speaking with the press.
Yeah, I got to start with the first meeting with these guys in terms of their commitment to our process and building a foundation for this football team. There haven't been many opportunities for me to thank them. These are the opportunities that you get a chance to thank those guys that have helped build the foundation for our football program. So this will be that opportunity that I get.
More from Kelly. Here he is speaking about the senior class and what it goes in to recruiting. This is 7 of guys like Josh Williams and Kyron Lacey.
Could he have another year?
Sure.
Do you have some guys like that?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, and each year, we go through this process where, you could have a couple senior days. It's one of those kind of situations where, we're really working off of their academic calendar, not necessarily their eligibility calendar. So we want to be able to honor them off of their academic calendar and what they've done in the classroom. And so there is that opportunity that somebody could come back because we're still dealing with the COVID year as that additional year of eligibility. So like other stops that I've had along the way, I've had multiple pictures on senior day with players, and this could be the case as well.
So LSU going to be in a spot here. The transfer portal opens up, 2 weeks? You're about to start to see a lot of roster shifting around. You're about to start to see a lot of roster management starting to pop up in college football with recruiting early signing period, the opening window of the transfer portal here for that early window with rosters, and what's going to happen here with some of the guys that they're going to recruit back. I know that Mekhi Wingo's name came up yesterday and specifically about what the plan is or what the opportunity is for Wingo. Obviously, from LSU standpoint, you would absolutely love to get a guy like Wingo back, right? You're talking about a leader. You're talking about a guy who has been in the program and really just done everything that you have asked him to do at such a high, successful level that you need guys like that. And then you strap it up on Saturday and you realize, man, this guy's one of the top players in the conference, in the league. The thing about Wingo coming back, I really see the advantage for a guy like Kyron Lacey coming back. I really see the advantage for a guy like Mason Smith coming back. But for a guy like Mekhi Wingo, how much more can he accomplish, right? Like, how much more can he really show that he can do to an NFL scout? If I'm an NFL scout, I feel like after watching him 2 years play at a high level in the SEC, I know who he is. right? I mean, I know his size limitation. I know his motor. I know his skill set. I know what he does well, and I know what he doesn't do well. In 1 year of playing another 15 games of college football, 13 to 15 games of college football, he's not going to be able to show you a lot more, right? So if you're just looking at Wingo, to me, it would probably point towards he's gone. For a guy like Mason Smith, for a guy like Kyron Lacy, I think you can legitimately look at both of those guys and say, hey, you could leave this year and you'd probably be drafted. Both of you. Second, third day guys. You know, Mason Smith, because of the potential, would probably be a second day guy. Kyron Lacy, because of, you know, he checks some physical boxes, you would probably think that he'd be a third or fourth day guy. But if both of them came back, they could improve their draft stock by 2 days at least, right? You would think that Mason Smith could, without question, work himself up into a first day pick, and Kyron Lacy could possibly work himself up into a second or third day pick by coming back. I mean, Lacy has a chance to be now the top target on an offense at LSU that's going to have a ton of attention next year, good, bad, or indifferent, whether it's right or wrong. They're going to have a ton of attention. They could be losing the Heisman Trophy winner. They could be losing the Bolitnikoff. They could be losing 2 first-round wide receivers. They're going to have a lot of attention, right? Except for the offensive line.
Yeah.
But if Kyron Lacy is a guy that's got experience on these teams, and then he becomes the man, and you've got guys playing alongside him like, you know, Shelton Sampson and Jaylen Brown and Kai Preon and Kyle Parker. I mean, you know, guys that are coming up through the system, then he's got to be the leader of the bunch. And for Mason Smith, I mean, it gives him an opportunity to play a full calendar year in football shape. Right? I mean, you can see that he's gotten better over the last couple of weeks. I don't think that we can deny that, right?
Was that his first sack Saturday?
No, I think he had one 2 weeks ago. But I mean, he's active. Mm-hmm. He's around the football. He looks more in shape.
Moving the pocket.
Yeah, I mean, like he's improving. He's getting better. I mean, if you were able to put down 13 to 15 games at that level, I think a lot more people would trust you at the next level, and you could make a lot more money. And if you're LSU, I mean, that's kind of your sales pitch. But I think that there are guys that make sense to come back, improve draft stock, and, you know, get an opportunity to make more money their senior year or you know, for another year. But there are also guys that, you know, probably makes the best sense that they've tapped out. I mean, they've hit their ceiling. Logan Diggs, right? I mean, like, if Logan Diggs, what could he really prove in college? You know, I mean, in a lifespan and at a position that can Diggs come back?
He might have a COVID year.
But, you know, just players that are in that types of situation. All right, we're going to talk to Brooke Kirchhoff coming up here in a couple of minutes as we will get the latest on what's going on with the Saints, what's happening down in New Orleans as they prepare for the Atlanta Falcons. And coming off of the bye week, obviously that was a brutal way to go into the bye. What's the latest on the quarterback situation with Carr and Winston? What's the latest on the health with the New Orleans Saints? So we will get down to the bottom of that. I think I screwed that up with Logan Diggs. I don't think he can come back.
This is last year?
Yeah, this is last year. But, you know, like Mason Smith and Kyron Lacy would be, you know, the best examples that I could give for that, of guys that you could recruit back, they could make more money, and they could really see a benefit.
He's a junior.
Logan Diggs?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But, you know, I mean, like, if he's you got to look at I'm looking at the running back room, right? I mean, like, you got to share carries again, which is not a bad thing for a running back. You keep some tread on the tire.
Yeah.
But, you know, at a position where the lifespan is short to begin with, rather than taking those hits on Saturdays and not getting paid as much as you can be making on Sundays and you know, putting that towards your career. Yeah, I just think that it's something to pay attention to. And they're in recruiting season now. And it's not just recruiting the roster from a high school standpoint. It's recruiting the roster of guys that you're looking to retain. I mean, you need roster retention during this point. So, it'd be something.
Thanks for tuning in to our premium LSU content right here on YouTube. If you want more of it, subscribe below.